President Biden facing his own docudrama as not one, but 3 batches of classified documents from his time as vice president have been recently uncovered. The first said to be discovered back on November 2nd of 2022 in his office for the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C. And more recently, on December 20th, another batch was found in the garage of his home in Wilmington, Delaware. And just this week, a 3rd document was discovered in a room next to his garage in the same Delaware home. Here is President Biden on Thursday.
As I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review.
Well, here to weigh in on the stunning developments is former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matt, it really is amazing, and there have been comparisons between the handling of Biden's documents and that of former President Trump. GOP Congressman James Comer, by the way, sent a letter calling for Biden to, quote, receive equal treatment under the law. And you can see it here. And Attorney General Merrick Garland has announced a special counsel to investigate.
Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel. In the days since, while Mr. Lausch continued the investigation, the department identified Mr. Hur for appointment as special counsel.
But no word on if President Biden's residences and his offices will be raided like Mar-a-Lago certainly was last year. So do you expect, Matt, this double standard to continue? I know they now both have, of course, special counsels, but the handling's very different.
Yeah. Well, good morning, Rita. It's good to be with you. I think the handling highlights the double standard, to your point. If you think about Merrick Garland and the decision timeline, we learned that these documents were discovered on November 2nd. We learned that the actual second tranche of documents were found sometime around Christmas, like December 20th. And I don't think Merrick Garland thought that this would ever see the light of day. I think they thought they could keep it under wraps, that no one would have to hear this. And, obviously, we've talked about before, the Trump special counsel, he painted himself into a corner because there was no need for a special counsel in the Trump case. And now he has no other choice in Joe Biden's case than to appoint a special counsel. It'll be very interesting if these special counsels end up coordinating on the legal standard and on the types of prosecutions that have been done in the past. You remember Jim Comey laid out at least his version of how these types of cases should be handled and his no reasonable prosecutor standard.
Yeah, and that was after the thousands of emails were suddenly removed. We're looking at some of the timeline here, and you point out the timeline is so suspicious. And by the way, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy called out the fact, just like you were talking about, that these documents were actually discovered days before the midterm elections. But here we are finding out it's 2 months later. Take a listen to what McCarthy said, and I want to get your take on this delay.
We watch what is happening right now with the President of the United States. Not once, but now we're finding in 2 different locations classified information just out there in the open. Another faux pas by the Biden administration, but treating law differently based upon your political beliefs. Treats one President Trump one way, but treats President Biden a whole different way.
So do you believe that the delay was them sweeping it under the rug? And why do you think it finally came out? Because obviously it leaked out just a little bit in the media, as we saw. Yeah. And then we just were hearing sort of bits and pieces. And then even that, I mean, what's amazing, Matt, is literally hours before Merrick Garland came out and announced the special counsel, according to him, yet another document was found in an adjacent office to that garage in the Wilmington, Delaware home. I mean, it's amazing how this has been just trickling out.
It has been trickling out, and we don't see, to your point, we haven't seen any FBI activity. We haven't seen the spread of documents laid on the floor of the garage and pictures taken of those. And I think the interesting distinction in these two cases is that in President Trump's case, he had the right, while president, to declassify documents. And that is one of the issues that Jack Smith, the special counsel, is going to have to look at. In Joe Biden's case as vice president, he had no ability to declassify documents. And so these documents that were found at his office, at his personal library, parked with his Corvette, all of those remain classified. And so Rob Hur's job as special counsel is going to actually be easier. He just needs to, make sure who had custody and control. But right now, all eyes and all roads are pointing to Joe Biden, at least instructing these documents delivered there and most likely putting them there, especially in the case of his private library.
It's amazing. And the other thing, too, is sort of his excuse, well, my Corvette was locked up in the garage, and that's supposed to be a secure form. It was I've never heard sort of the Corvette defense, or we're calling it Car-a-Lago. I mean, it's really amazing, Matt. What's interesting, too, is the White House basically admitted that the documents were, quote, inadvertently misplaced. And then it was phrased later, inadvertently mishandled. This isn't a good look, by the way, obviously, for the Biden administration. But from a legal perspective, Matt, isn't that basically an admission of guilt, or at least an admission of recklessness?
Yeah, it is. To your point, the law doesn't recognize the kind of locked closet defense or the locked garage with my Corvette defense. What it recognizes is, did you, with gross negligence or recklessness, mishandle classified documents? This is where they've painted themselves in a corner, because in the Donald Trump case, the evidence actually points to no criminal culpability on the part of President Trump. In the Joe Biden case, it actually points more towards his criminal culpability. I really, we've talked about the politicization of the Department of Justice, and I think this appointment of a second special counsel points to how politicized they had become, and why now we have this major problem for the White House. And they're trying to spin this, and their allies in the press are trying to spin this. But the long story short is, it appears to be a clear violation of federal law by the current president.
Yeah, and that's why I think they're sort of laying it out there already now from a legal defense, and sort of hoping maybe public opinion will help them to put some pressure also. It's really fascinating to see the spin game. Matt Whitaker, thank you very, very much. Great to have you here, Matt.
All right. Have a great morning, Rita. Thank you.